First, Dinesh says people like me who will say that Jesus didn't maybe exist will never concede that, say, Socrates didn't. I produce my own book. I say that this is the first concession I make, but it doesn't matter because we don't say of Socrates that he had miraculous powers, that if you don't believe in what he said, you'll go to hell or heaven and so forth. There's no shift here, Dinesh, at all on my part of any kind. As to the historicity of it, or the reality of it, let's take something that for some reason Christians think is important, which I conceded. I said it could have been true, it wouldn't make any difference to me, the virgin birth. According to the Bible, the birth of Jesus Christ was in this wise. I quote, "When his mother Mary was espoused to Joseph, before they came together, she was found with child of the Holy Ghost." I add in my book, and I'll quote, "Yes, and the Greek demigod Perseus was born when the god Jupiter visited the virgin Danae as a shower of gold, and got her with child. The god Buddha was born through an opening in his mother's flank. Catlicus the serpent-skirted caught a little ball of feathers from the sky and hid it in her bosom, and the Aztec god Huitzilopochtli was thus conceived. The virgin Nana took a pomegranate from the tree watered by the blood of the slain Agdestris and laid it in her bosom and gave birth to the god Attis. The virgin daughter of a Mongol king awoke one night and found herself bathed in a great light, which caused her to give birth to Genghis Khan. Krishna was born of the virgin Devaka. Horus was born of the virgin Isis. Mercury was born of the virgin Maya. Romulus was born of the virgin Rhea Silvia." Even the Quran agrees that the Virgin Mary was born by an immaculate conception. By the way, the Quran says that Jesus was not crucified at all. The Jews crucified someone else in his place, and he never died. There's no end to the way in which this kind of thing can be fabricated, but those who say that you can just tell by the potency and pungency of the story, by the memorability of it, that there must be something true about it, are simply inviting you to rely not on your thinking faculties or your intellectual capacity at all, but on straight-out credulity and on the repeated manufacture of things that appear to be part of the hard and soft wiring of legend in our mammalian primate history. Apparently, if you want to have a prophet, it's better if his mother is a virgin. You want to fabricate another one, that's what will happen.
Hello, I am Josephus, the Roman historian of the Maccabean dynasty and the Pharisee who served as priest in the Temple of Jerusalem in 70 AD.
Now that we have a reliable translation at hand, the quote we will be discussing comes from chapter 3 of book 18 of the Antiquities of the Jews. Josephus is speaking of Pilate and what Pilate has done in Judea. Josephus then mentions Jesus, and it goes as such. At this time, there was a wise man who was called Jesus, and his conduct was good, and his learning outstanding. And many people from among the Jews and the other nations became his disciples. Pilate condemned him to be crucified and to die. From this quote, we can gather evidence to support a historical foundation of Jesus, in which Jesus lived under the rule of Pontius Pilate in Judea. This dates from 26 to 36 AD. As well that Jesus was a teacher, as he had disciples, and was crucified under Pontius Pilate. This evidence is important, as some people reject the existence of Jesus. Josephus, on the other hand, helps establish Jesus as a historical figure. We as well can line this up with the 4 gospel accounts to see if they are accurate, in which it does line up historically.
Now, in the following is the explanation of all the pagan virgin birth stories.
The prophecy of a virgin birth comes from Genesis chapter 3 verse 15, the seed of a woman, and Isaiah chapter 7 verse 14, a virgin birth. Pagans has a so-called virgin birth from Babylon. Genesis chapter 11, Nimrod is mentioned. After Nimrod died, his wife, Semiramis, had an adulterous affair, and she became pregnant and claimed it was Nimrod born again. The Greek historian Herodotus tells us all the idolatry in the world was disseminated and modeled after those two. That's where you get all the ancient pagan virgin birth stories. In reality, it was Satan setting a minefield, because it had already been predicted in Genesis chapter 3 verse 15, seed of the woman. And Jesus was born of a woman.